Hi friends, this is Val Solitker here, and I really want to give us an invitation today to take a moment and slow down, take a breath, and breathe into what's feeling alive in you right now. There is absolutely so much distraction in our world right now, and this intense level of distraction is really pulling us away from being with what feels present in our lives. Sometimes that leads to unprocessed fear, pain, and emotions that are really aching to be experienced. You know, I find that when we suppress our emotions and we try to pull ourselves away from experiencing them and run away to escape, we bottle them up inside. And so I want to look at this today, the importance of normalizing our emotions like sadness and fear and grief, and not allowing them to be pushed down to the point where we begin to explode in every area of our life, turning ourselves and our choices into experiences that we do not prefer and that are not aligned with who we truly are. So let's take a look at this today. Right now, there's a global epidemic. There's pandemics, there's global climate change, there's so much pain in our world, and there's this epidemic of escape. It's like we're a global, group of escape artists trying to run away from our feelings, trying to run away from our pain, and labeling our emotions as not okay. If we feel sadness or pain or grief or fear, that there's somehow something wrong with us and we need some magic pill to make us better. Now, there's a long history of, mental health issues here in the pharmaceutical company and mental health professionals, what they're trained, and the freely, given medication that's created a slippery slope of much more pain in our world. I am not going to get into that in this video, but it is definitely something to be aware of and to watch out for. If that's you, please be careful with taking drugs because you've been labeled with some kind of disorder that made feeling normal emotions not okay. But I'm not going to get into that here. What I really want to talk about today is the importance of allowing ourselves to feel what it is that we're feeling, and to recognize that there are no bad emotions. There are no negative emotions. It is not a fact. As a matter of fact, all of our emotions are simply experiences, and they are here for us to deepen, to guide us into what's wanting attention in our lives. It's like if we bump into something and we hurt our arm, we're like, ooh, like we want to rub it for a second and give it some love and attention. Like it wants attention. When we're experiencing something painful in our inner world, that also wants attention. If there's something that I'm feeling fear around, I want to know what that is. I want to understand what that part of me is all about. If I'm feeling sadness or grief, I want to also understand what that's about. We live in a world that is teaching us that it's not okay to feel those feelings, and there's something wrong with us if we do. So we find ourselves numbing out. And there is just so much distraction right now that what's happening is that it's causing all of this unprocessed pain and fear to well up inside of us to the point that we start feeling so contracted and like tight that we're about to burst and explode. And it looks like us yelling at the people that we love, yelling at our children, not showing up in the ways that we want to show up in our lives at work or with our friends. It looks like us curling up in a ball to not be able to get up or socialize right now because it just feels so intense. So we find ourselves edgy. We find ourselves, not being able to even work with or contain our lives because all of the emotions that we're not looking at are building up to the point of being overwhelming. When we can begin to slow down and give ourselves the space to feel these very normal emotions, it can literally transform the way that we show up. Because who we are is more than our experience of these emotions. I am not grief. I am not my sadness. A part of me may be experiencing sadness right now. So what would it be like for me to not be so identified with that feeling of fear or sadness, but rather to disidentify with that feeling, center into that part of me that is larger than that experience of sadness, and hold myself in my sadness. You know, create a space for me to give myself some self-love and compassion and say, wow, there's some deep sadness that part of me is experiencing right now. I am not sad. I am not grief. That is not defining who I am as a person. I can also feel deep grief and experiencing a sunrise that's so beautiful, or listen to a bird song that lights up my heart, or hug my beautiful son and just have a moment of tickling and laughter, even as I'm grieving. We can hold all of that. We have the capacity to experience all of these emotions and all of them as normal. As a matter of fact, if you're not feeling any grief or sadness or pain right now with everything that's happening in our world, then maybe you're not paying attention. If you are feeling the weight of our world right now inside of you, it's because you are alive and we are interconnected with the world. We feel the pain of the world within us and it magnifies our personal experiences. That's just what happens. If you're not experiencing any of that, if you're living in this space that says, I am just a spirit, you know, I'm not really a human, then you are bypassing the human experience. And I find that to be incredibly dangerous. We are both human and grounded and rooted in this earth. And we need to feel all of these experiences because they ripen us. They are part of our soul experience. Some of those darkest nights of the soul that I've had in my life have literally shown me my path, given me the strength and the resilience and the power to step into myself as a messenger in this world because of what I've experienced, not in spite of it. Does that sound familiar? I guarantee if you're listening to this, you have had an intense experience in your life at some point that has shaped you in some way, that has given you strength as you've risen through it and emerged through it into a new version of yourself. And I want you to trust that. All the emotions that you're feeling, grief, sadness, fear, anything that's other than happy, embrace them. Allow them. Give space for them. Normalize them. Let them be teachers inside of you to show you what it is that you value, what it is that you love. You know, I love the sense of connection and community, and I am grieving with all the feeling of loneliness and isolation in our world right now. What is it for you? You know, how can you take it all in and allow it to help us develop a sense of resilience? You know, resilience is the ability for us to move through change and come back through it and emerge even stronger. We can only do that by allowing ourselves to feel. When we turn towards these experiences as normal, we allow ourselves to have a communion with our sadness. We allow ourselves to hold the part of us that's grieving with love and recognize our gratitude for not running away. It expands our experience. It allows us to have the gifts of the experience as well and to grow deeper because of them. And this is what we need right now in our world. We need all of us to normalize sadness as part of how we're learning to be more human in this world. Because we are both human and, you know, this soul, right? And the soulful part of us can only really flow through us when we work with the parts of us that are stopping us from being everything that we can be. We need to process these sad emotions. We need to process our fear. When we can do that, it's as if we create a larger space for a deeper breath to happen. And when we do that, we as a soul can move through us, through our personality and into the world. So we need to be able to be with these experiences, to slow down, to allow this part of us, this soulful part of us, to lead, you know? And so we can only do that when we begin to process the parts, these emotions that hold us back from fully accessing the potential of who we are. So I want you to feel it, feel all of it. And if at any time it feels too overwhelming to hold alone, get support from a friend, from a partner, from a coach, from a therapist. Get the support that you need to really work with the roots of what you're experiencing right now, not to mask it, not to run away and try to turn it into happy feelings right away, because that's not authentic. That's not honest. If you're feeling sadness, be there. Like, sadness is a friend. You know, I think a great example of this is the movie Inside Out. If you ever saw it, there's this scene. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But there's this scene where Bing Bong is having a deep experience of grief. And Joy is like, come on, feel better. You can do it. Okay. And he's just like, nah, I can't just like be happy right now. And then sadness comes and sits with him and says, yeah, it's really hard. You're feeling really sad right now. And he's like, yeah, I am. And he starts to cry. And he cries and he cries and he lets it go and he processes it. And sadness just holds his hand. And then he looks at sadness and says, I feel a lot better. And that is how we move to joy. We move to joy through experiencing all that we have inside of us to experience, by understanding it, by allowing it to be normal and real and honest and part of our authentic soul ripening. This is how we move to a joyful expression that's honest and authentic. It's how we let our soul once again lead us in this world. Okay? So bring all of those emotions in, get support if you need support, and make sure that you recognize that there's nothing wrong with you. It is totally normal to feel sadness and grief right now. You are not alone, my friend. I feel it too. And so many of us are tuning in and tapping into this feeling. And remember, there's so much space within us to feel both our sadness, our grief, our fear, our pain, and also our love and the beauty of this world and the potential and possibilities that the sunrise reminds us of. All of that is here. We have space for all of that. Slow down. Allow yourself to feel it. Breathe. Breathe again. And if you need any support, I'm here. Turn to somebody you trust. Find a community, and we can be in this process together.